Before this story begins, I want to share why Keanu Reeves inspires me. It is not because of fame or success. It is because of how he moves through the world quietly. He does not rush moments. He does not steal attention. He allows other people to exist fully. In a world that speaks too fast, he listens. In a world that interrupts, he waits. That patience feels rare and human. It feels like respect without performance. That is why this story matters to me and why I believe it will matter to you. The room holds a kind of stillness that feels heavier than silence. The light coming through the tall windows has softened, not dim, just less sharp than before. The air feels paused, as if it is waiting for something to decide what happens next. No one speaks. A breath is taken and then held. Something unseen has shifted, and everyone feels it without knowing why. Alexandra Grant stands near the center of the space, not moving forward and not stepping back. Her hands rest lightly against each other, fingers relaxed but unsure. Her eyes are focused somewhere ahead, yet not on any person. There is thought in her posture, not doubt, but something unfinished. She feels the weight of words forming inside her, words that need time to arrive. Keanu Reeves is nearby, not close enough to interrupt and not far enough to disappear. He notices the small change in the room before anyone else does, the slight tightening of shoulders, the pause that lasts one breath longer than expected. He recognizes this moment because he has lived inside moments like this before, moments where speaking too soon would break something delicate. This is not a stage. There are no bright lights or crowds. It is a working space, calm and minimal, shaped by creative energy rather than pressure. People are present, but no one is performing. The goal is not perfection. The goal is honesty. Alexandra has been asked to share a developing idea, something still forming, something that cannot be rushed. The hook of this moment is simple but powerful. Will silence be respected, or will someone step in to guide it? Most people would help. Most people would fill the gap. Help often comes from care, but care can still interrupt growth. This is where the story truly begins. Alexandra begins to speak, then stops. Not because she forgot what to say, but because something inside her needs alignment. Her voice does not fail. It waits. She senses that the next thought matters, and if forced, it could lose its truth. The room feels that pause, and tension rises quietly. Someone shifts their weight. A chair moves slightly. The instinct to rescue the moment grows stronger. Keanu feels it too. He feels the urge to say something reassuring. He knows the right words. He always does. But he also knows that this moment does not belong to him. Keanu remembers other times in his life when someone spoke too soon for him. Moments when he was still processing grief, still forming understanding, still finding breath. He remembers how interruption felt like loss, even when it was gentle. He does not want to repeat that pattern here. Alexandra takes another breath. Her shoulders lower just a little. She is not looking for approval. She is listening inward. Her thoughts are arranging themselves slowly, like pieces finding the right place. This is her process, and it is fragile. The setup of this story is not about conflict between people. It is about conflict with time. Time that pressures, time that expects answers, time that does not like pauses. The goal is simple. Allow truth to arrive without force. Keanu shifts his stance slightly, grounding himself. He does not cross his arms. He does not step forward. His stillness becomes an anchor. Others notice without realizing why they relax. His silence gives permission. Alexandra begins again. This time her voice is softer but clearer. She speaks about an idea that has followed her for months, an idea that refuses to be defined quickly. She explains how it connects emotion and language, how meaning lives in space as much as in words. Her sentences are not perfect. They wander. They return. They grow stronger. Tension builds as she reaches a difficult point. Her words slow. She hesitates again. This is where the twist begins to form, though no one sees it yet. The twist is not loud. It is subtle and human. It is the decision to not interrupt becoming more powerful than any spoken advice. Someone nearby inhales as if about to speak. Keanu notices. He gently shifts his gaze, not in command, but in calm awareness. Nothing is said. The moment passes. Alexandra continues. Inside her, something changes. She feels something rare. She feels unpressured. The absence of interruption gives her courage. She allows herself to say something unfinished, something vulnerable. She admits she does not fully understand her own idea yet. The honesty lands softly but deeply. This is the emotional beat of the moment. Not applause, not praise, but relief. Relief that she can be incomplete and still be respected. Keanu feels it too. He feels gratitude not for being noticed, but for being trusted enough to stay quiet. Alexandra finishes speaking, not with confidence but with peace. There is no dramatic ending, just a natural stopping point. The room exhales together. Something meaningful has occurred, even if no one can fully explain it yet. Keanu speaks only after the moment has fully settled. His words are simple. He thanks her for sharing, nothing more, no analysis, no direction, respect over explanation. This part resolves quietly, but a question lingers. Why did this moment feel different? What happens when silence is chosen intentionally? What deeper impact will this have on both of them? The cliffhanger rests in what comes next, because this was not just a moment, it was a pattern beginning to change. The silence from yesterday still seems to live in the corners of the room. The morning light is brighter now, but it does not feel sharp. It feels like it is trying to be gentle. Alexandra notices how her body remembers the calm. She notices it in her chest, in the way her shoulders sit lower than usual. She cannot fully explain why, but something in her feels less guarded. The hook arrives quietly because a new kind of pressure enters without making noise. A message appears on a phone screen and then another. People begin to arrive earlier than planned. There is talk of timing, of schedules, of a surprise visitor who may come by. None of it sounds harsh. All of it sounds polite. Yet Alexandra feels the same old pull, the one that says, hurry, make it neat, make it impressive, do not leave it unfinished. Keanu is there again, seated in a simple chair near a window. He is holding a paper cup of coffee, not drinking much, just letting the warmth sit in his hand. He watches people move around with quiet purpose. He sees the way the room begins to tighten. He does not judge anyone. He understands the instinct. He also understands what gets lost when moments become performances. Alexandra stands by a large table covered with her work, pages, sketches, and small objects that belong to her process. The table looks like a mind made visible. It is not messy in a careless way. It is messy in a living way. She has always loved that. Today she feels a new fear that someone will look at it and misunderstand it. The setup becomes clear. A small group of organizers wants Alexandra to share her evolving project again, but this time they want it shorter, cleaner, and ready for outside eyes. They are not unkind. They are not demanding. They simply do not understand that shortening a living idea can change its heart. Alexandra nods as they speak. She agrees to try. Her voice is calm, but inside her there is a small tightening again. She looks down at her hands and notices she is holding them together the same way she did yesterday. She remembers how she paused and how she was allowed to continue. She wonders if that permission will exist today. Keanu listens without interrupting. He does not offer a suggestion. He does not give a speech about art. Instead, he waits until the organizers step away. Then he asks Alexandra if she wants him to stay near or if she wants him to give her space. His voice is soft. His tone has no pressure. Alexandra tells him she wants him to stay near. She does not say why. She does not fully know why. But she feels safer when someone understands silence. Keanu nods and he stays near the window again, present but not close. It feels like a kind of promise. Alexandra begins to prepare. She tries to arrange her thoughts into a tighter shape. She tries to remove the parts that feel too personal. She tells herself it is fine. She tells herself this is just a practical step. Yet as she rehearses the shorter version, something important goes missing. She can feel it. Her words sound smooth, but they do not feel true. The rising conflict grows, not through arguments, but through the way her body reacts. Her throat feels dry. Her mind keeps returning to one detail she cannot fit into the short version. It is a memory connected to her work, a memory of a time when she felt unseen, and how art became a way to speak without forcing anyone to listen. That memory is the heart of the project. Without it, the project becomes just a concept. Keanu sees her pause. He does not speak. He does not lean forward. He simply places his cup down and takes a slow breath, as if reminding the room that time still exists. Alexandra notices. She does not look at him directly, but she feels the steadiness. The room fills with people, not a crowd, just enough to change the air. There is a soft hum of conversation, respectful but busy. Someone checks a watch, someone adjusts a chair. Everything is normal, yet Alexandra feels the pressure climb. She begins to speak, using the shorter version. Her voice sounds clear. She sees a few nods. She feels the room approving. And that is when the twist begins, because approval does not make her feel better. It makes her feel farther from herself. She stops mid-sentence. She does not mean to. It happens like a breath catching. A quiet gap opens. It is not dramatic. It is just real. The room goes still in that strange way it did yesterday. But today the stillness feels more fragile. One person smiles too quickly as if to encourage her to continue. Another person shifts, ready to offer a helpful phrase. The old pattern tries to return. Alexandra feels it like a hand reaching into her process. She feels a small panic, not loud, just sharp enough to sting. Keanu feels the moment arriving. He also feels the instinct to protect her, not from people, but from interruption. He could step in with humor. He could smooth it over. He knows how to do that. He chooses not to. He keeps his face calm. He keeps his body still. He keeps the space open. Alexandra takes a breath. The pause is longer than anyone expects. The tension rises. Then something unexpected happens. One of the organizers begins to speak, not to interrupt, but to rescue. Their words are kind. Their intent is good, yet Alexandra feels herself shrink. Keanu does something small, something almost invisible. He turns his head slightly toward the organizer and lifts one hand, palm open, not a stop sign, not a command, just a quiet gesture that says, "Let her continue." His expression is gentle. There is no anger, there is only respect. The organizer pauses. They nod. They fall silent. The room follows. It is as if everyone has been given a new instruction, not spoken but felt. This is the emotional beat, not because someone won, but because space has been defended without conflict. Alexandra feels tears rise, not because she is sad, but because she is seen. She looks down at the table, then back up, and she lets herself speak the part she tried to remove. She tells them about the memory. She tells them how she once sat in a quiet room where people talked around her, not to her. She tells them how she felt invisible, and how she began to write words that no one asked for because those words were the only place she felt free. She says she built her work around that freedom. Her voice shakes once, then steadies. The room changes again. The busy energy softens. People stop checking watches. They listen with their faces, not just their ears. The project becomes human. It becomes more than an idea. It becomes a lived thing. Alexandra finishes. This time she does not feel empty. She feels whole. She feels like she brought her real self into the room. There is a quiet kind of gratitude in the air. No one claps. No one performs appreciation. They simply sit in respectful silence for a moment. Afterward, the organizers thank her. They apologize gently for pushing her to shorten something that needed breath. They are not ashamed. They are learning. Alexandra nods and accepts their words without bitterness. The tone stays kind. Keanu does not take credit. He does not explain his gesture. He only asks Alexandra if she feels okay. She says yes. She also says she is surprised by her own courage. Keanu smiles in a small way, and he tells her that her process is not a problem to solve. It is a truth to protect. The mini-resolution settles like warm light, yet a new thread appears, the one that will pull the next part forward. As people leave, a woman approaches Alexandra quietly. She says she recognized the memory. She says she has been carrying a similar story, and she has never told anyone. She asks if she can speak with Alexandra privately. Alexandra agrees. Keanu watches from a respectful distance. He senses something deeper is about to unfold. Alexandra follows the woman into a quieter hallway, and the door closes softly behind them. The hallway feels cooler than the room they left behind. The light here is softer, almost uncertain, as if it has not decided where to rest. Alexandra notices the sound of her own steps more clearly. Each one feels measured. She senses that whatever comes next will not be casual. Something meaningful has followed her into this quieter space. The woman walking beside her introduces herself simply, without titles or explanations. Her voice is steady, but there is a careful edge to it. She says she did not plan to speak today. She says something in Alexandra words opened a door she had kept closed for a long time. That sentence alone carries weight, and Alexandra feels it settle in her chest. This is the hook of part 3, not a reveal yet, but a promise of one. A sense that this story is about to turn inward in a way that cannot be undone. They stop near a bench by a window. Outside, the sky looks ordinary. Inside, the air feels charged. The woman hesitates. Alexandra does not rush her. She remembers what it felt like to be given time, and she offers the same gift without saying so. The woman begins slowly. She explains that she works behind the scenes, organizing creative spaces, guiding projects, smoothing paths for others. She says she has always been good at helping people speak. She says she has never been good at speaking herself. Her hands move as she talks, not dramatically, just enough to show nervous energy. She tells Alexandra about a time years ago when she had an idea that mattered deeply to her. She brought it into a room full of capable people. She paused once just to breathe, just to find the right way to begin. Someone interrupted her, not unkindly, just efficiently. Her idea was reshaped before it could stand on its own. She let it go. She told herself it was fine. Alexandra listens. She feels the familiar ache of recognition. She knows this story is not just about one moment. It is about a pattern. It is about what happens when silence is treated as emptiness instead of meaning. The woman continues. She says that after that day, she stopped bringing her own ideas forward. She became excellent at supporting others. She built a life that looked successful, but something inside her stayed unfinished. When Alexandra spoke earlier and then paused and then was allowed to continue, something inside her broke open. The tension rises quietly. Alexandra realizes that her moment of honesty has already reached farther than she imagined. The responsibility of that feels heavy. She wonders what to say, then remembers she does not need to fix anything. She tells the woman she is glad she spoke. She tells her that unfinished thoughts are not failures. They are invitations. Her voice is gentle. She does not offer advice. She offers understanding. The woman exhales. She says she did not expect to feel relief just from being heard. She wipes her eyes quickly, almost embarrassed. Alexandra reassures her without words, just by staying present. Back in the main room, Keanu senses the shift even before they return. He feels a subtle change in energy, the way one does when something important is happening nearby. He does not move toward the hallway. He trusts the process. That trust is becoming a theme, though he has not named it. Alexandra returns alone a few minutes later. Her expression is thoughtful, not heavy. Keanu meets her eyes briefly. He does not ask questions. She gives a small nod, letting him know she is okay. That silent exchange carries more meaning than a conversation. The setup of this part deepens. Alexandra begins to understand that her work is not only about her own freedom. It creates space for others, often without intention. That realization brings both humility and fear. She wonders if she is ready for that kind of impact. The rising conflict comes from within. She feels a pull to retreat, to protect herself from responsibility. She also feels a pull to lean in, to keep speaking honestly even when it feels risky. Those two forces sit in tension inside her. Later that afternoon, the group regathers for a final discussion. This time the mood is different. People speak more slowly. They leave pauses. It is subtle but real. Alexandra notices and feels a mix of gratitude and unease. Change feels good, but it also brings uncertainty. Someone asks Alexandra how she wants to proceed with the project. The question is open, but it carries expectation. This is another moment where interruption could shape the outcome. Alexandra feels the weight of it. She begins to answer, then pauses again. The room waits. This pause feels longer than before, not uncomfortable but charged. Alexandra feels the urge to fill it. She feels the urge to be clear and decisive. She also feels the truth rising, the truth that she does not yet know the next step. The twist arrives quietly. Instead of pushing forward, Alexandra says she needs time. She says the project is still listening to itself. She says rushing it would break something important. Her voice does not apologize. It simply states what is real. There is a brief moment of uncertainty. A few people exchange looks. The old habits stir, then something unexpected happens. One person says that makes sense. Another says they trust her judgment. The room does not collapse, it adjusts. Keanu watches this unfold with a calm that comes from experience. He sees that the space he helped protect earlier is now protecting itself. He feels a quiet satisfaction, not pride, but alignment. The emotional beat lands softly. Alexandra feels a sense of belonging she did not know she was missing. Not belonging to a group, but belonging to her own process without needing permission. The mini-resolution settles as the meeting ends. People leave with thoughtful expressions. The room empties slowly. Alexandra gathers her materials, feeling lighter and more grounded at the same time. Keanu approaches her then. He tells her he noticed something change today. He says it feels like her work is teaching people how to listen. Alexandra smiles, unsure how to respond. She says she is still learning how to listen to herself. The cliffhanger forms as the woman from the hallway returns, standing a short distance away. She looks nervous but determined. She asks Alexandra if she would like to hear the rest of her idea sometime. She says she has never shared it before. Alexandra feels a quiet thrill and a quiet fear. She realizes this story is no longer just about one moment of silence. It is about what silence can awaken in others. The next day begins with a feeling that is hard to name. The sky outside looks steady, not bright and not dark. The air inside the space feels different, as if it remembers what happened before. Alexandra notices this as soon as she enters. It feels like walking into a room that has learned how to breathe. She pauses near the doorway. Her body reacts before her thoughts do. There is a gentle awareness in her chest, a quiet readiness mixed with uncertainty. She knows something is changing. She does not know if it will feel comfortable. This is the hook of part 4. The sense that a shift has already begun and no one can fully control where it leads. Keanu arrives shortly after. He greets her with the same calm presence as always. Nothing about him signals importance. Nothing about him demands attention, yet his consistency feels grounding. It reminds Alexandra that whatever unfolds does not need to be managed. It needs to be allowed. The setup deepens as the group gathers again. Today there is no formal agenda. The organizers explain that they want to reflect on what has emerged so far. They want to listen rather than direct. The intention sounds good. Still, Alexandra feels a small knot form. Reflection can easily turn into interpretation. Interpretation can turn into control. She sits at the table with her work spread in front of her. She does not rearrange it. She leaves it as it is, open and unfinished. That choice feels small but brave. She notices her hands are steady. The woman from the hallway is there too. She sits near the edge of the group, quiet and watchful. Their eyes meet briefly. Something unspoken passes between them, a shared understanding that yesterday opened a door that cannot be closed again. The rising conflict enters through voices that mean well. Someone begins to summarize Alexandra's work using confident language. They speak about themes and outcomes. Their words are thoughtful. They are also narrowing. Alexandra feels it immediately. The shape of her work begins to change under someone else's voice. She listens without interrupting. She feels the familiar pressure rising, the urge to correct, the urge to explain, the urge to protect. Her chest tightens just enough to notice. Keanu feels the shift too. He recognizes the moment when interpretation starts to replace experience. He watches Alexandra closely, not to step in, but to understand what she needs. He stays still. The person finishes speaking and looks to Alexandra for confirmation. The room waits. This pause feels heavier than the others. It carries expectation. Alexandra feels the weight of it settle on her shoulders. She opens her mouth, then closes it. Her breath slows. She feels the old fear, the fear of disappointing people who are trying to help. She also feels a new strength, built from the moments of space she has been given. She speaks carefully. She thanks the person for their insight. She says she hears the care behind their words. Then she says something unexpected. She says that while their interpretation is thoughtful, it is not complete. She says her work needs to remain open longer. Her voice is calm. It does not defend. It simply states. This is the twist. Not confrontation, but clarity. Not rejection, but honesty without apology. The room reacts quietly. A few people shift in their seats. No one argues. The tension hums. This is unfamiliar territory. People are not used to ideas resisting structure so gently. The woman from the hallway watches with wide eyes. She feels something rise in her chest, courage mixed with fear. She realizes this is the moment she has been waiting for, even if she did not know it. Alexandra continues. She explains that her work is not meant to deliver answers. It is meant to hold questions. She says that silence is part of its language. She says that interruption changes its meaning. Her words are simple, but they carry weight. Someone asks how they can support that kind of work. The question is genuine. Alexandra feels a flicker of hope. Before she can answer, the woman from the hallway speaks. Her voice is quiet but steady. She says she would like to share something if that is allowed. The room turns toward her, surprised but open. The woman takes a breath. She feels the old fear surface, the fear of being redirected or reshaped. She looks at Alexandra, who nods gently. That nod is enough. The woman speaks about her unfinished idea. She explains that it has lived inside her for years without form. She says she always thought it needed to be clearer before it deserved space. She says watching Alexandra pause and continue freely made her realize that clarity can come later. The room listens. Something shifts again. This is not part of any plan. This is not scheduled, yet it feels right. The emotional beat arrives quietly. Alexandra feels tears gather, not because she is overwhelmed, but because she sees the ripple of her own courage reflected back to her. Keanu feels it too. He sees how restraint can become invitation. The woman finishes speaking. She does not ask for feedback, she simply shares. The room holds the silence afterward without rushing to fill it. This time, no one reaches for explanation. The mini-resolution settles in that silence. People begin to understand that something new is forming here, not a project but a way of being together, a way that values presence over performance. Then the cliffhanger appears, subtle but powerful. One of the organizers mentions that there is interest from outside partners. They have heard about the project. They want to be involved. They want timelines. They want clarity. The room tightens slightly. Alexandra feels the familiar tension return, sharper this time. The stakes are higher now. Outside attention brings pressure. Pressure invites interruption. Keanu notices Alexandra's reaction. He does not speak. He does not reassure. He trusts her to feel what she needs to feel. Alexandra looks at the table, at her work, at the people around her. She realizes that the real challenge has not yet arrived. The real test will be whether this space can survive growth. The part ends with that question hanging in the air. Can freedom remain when expectations increase? Can silence still be honored when more voices arrive? The days that follow feel fuller, not louder, but heavier with meaning. The space begins to change in small ways. More chairs appear. Schedules grow longer. Names are mentioned that carry influence. Alexandra feels this shift before anyone explains it. It shows up in how people enter the room with purpose instead of curiosity. The hook of this part arrives through anticipation. Something important is coming, and no one knows if it will strengthen what has been built or quietly undo it. Alexandra notices her body responding again. Her breath shortens slightly when conversations turn toward outcomes. She listens carefully, trying to stay grounded. She reminds herself of why this work exists. She reminds herself of the silence that allowed it to breathe. Keanu remains steady. His presence has not changed, even as the environment grows more complex. He arrives early, leaves late, and speaks only when necessary. He understands that the louder the world becomes, the more restraint matters. The setup becomes clear when the organizers announce a meeting with outside partners. These partners are respectful and curious, but they bring expectations. They want to understand the project quickly. They want to see its direction. They want reassurance that it will translate. Alexandra feels the weight of that request. Translation can be useful, but it can also flatten what is alive. She feels the old fear returning, the fear that silence will be mistaken for uncertainty. The woman from the hallway, now slowly becoming more confident, sits near Alexandra again. She watches closely. She feels protective in a way that surprises her. She realizes that seeing someone defend their process has awakened her own desire to do the same. The meeting begins calmly. The partners ask thoughtful questions. They listen, they nod. Yet as the conversation continues, the questions become more focused. What is the final form? When will it be ready? How will it be presented? The rising conflict builds in the space between those questions and the answers that cannot yet exist. Alexandra feels her chest tighten. She begins to answer, choosing her words carefully. She explains that the work is still unfolding. She explains that rushing it would change its meaning. One of the partners smiles politely and says they understand. Then they suggest a framework, something flexible but defined. Their tone is kind. Their intent is practical, yet Alexandra feels the edges closing in. Keanu watches her closely. He sees the moment when patience will be tested. He also knows that stepping in now could shift attention away from Alexandra's voice. He does not want to become the center. He wants the process to remain hers. Alexandra pauses again. This pause feels different. It is heavier. The stakes are higher. The silence stretches. The room waits. This is the twist. Instead of Keanu holding the space this time, someone else does. The woman from the hallway speaks. Her voice is calm but firm. She says she wants to add something. She explains that she has spent years supporting projects like this. She explains that clarity can be valuable, but only if it grows from truth. She says what is happening here is rare. She says interruption would damage it. The room goes quiet. This was not expected. The partners listen. The organizers look surprised but thoughtful. Alexandra feels a wave of emotion rise in her chest. She feels supported in a way she did not anticipate. The woman continues. She says she has lived the cost of being rushed. She says she does not want to see that pattern repeated. Her words are simple. They carry weight because they are lived. The emotional beat lands deeply. Alexandra feels tears gather again, but she does not hide them. She lets them exist. She realizes that the space created earlier has grown strong enough to protect itself. Keanu feels something settle inside him. This is the moment he hoped for but never tried to control, the moment when restraint multiplies through others. One of the partners responds thoughtfully. They say they appreciate the honesty. They admit they are used to speed. They say they are willing to adjust if it means preserving integrity. The tone of the room softens. The mini-resolution forms gently. No final decisions are made. Instead, an agreement is reached to allow the work to continue without pressure. Timelines are loosened. Expectations are reframed. After the meeting ends, the room feels quieter again, not empty but settled. Alexandra sits for a moment, letting her breath return to its natural rhythm. Keanu approaches her slowly. He tells her he noticed something important. He says she did not have to be defended today. She had already built something strong enough to stand. Alexandra smiles through tired eyes. She says she is still learning how to trust that. The woman joins them. She looks relieved. She says she did not know she had that voice in her. Alexandra thanks her. She says that courage spreads. The woman nods, understanding that this is only the beginning of her own process. The cliffhanger emerges quietly. Later that evening, Alexandra receives a message. It is from one of the partners. They say they would like to feature her work publicly sooner than planned. Not to rush it, they say, but to share the process itself. Alexandra feels a mix of excitement and fear. Sharing the process means exposing uncertainty. It means letting the world see pauses and unfinished thoughts. It means trusting silence on a larger scale. She looks at Keanu, who is packing up nearby. She does not ask for advice. She simply asks if he thinks silence can survive attention. Keanu pauses before answering. His expression is thoughtful. He says silence can survive anything if it is respected. Alexandra nods, knowing the next part of the story will test that truth. The morning of the public sharing arrives without drama. The sky is clear, not bright, not dull, just steady. Alexandra notices how calm that feels. She wakes early and sits by a window, listening to the city breathe. There is no rush in her body. There is awareness, and that feels new. The hook of this final part lives in a quiet question. Can honesty remain gentle when many eyes are watching? The space is arranged simply. No stage, no spotlight. People arrive slowly. Some are curious, some are unsure. No one is told what to expect. That choice feels intentional. Alexandra wants the process to speak for itself. Keanu arrives and takes a seat near the back. Not hidden, not central, present. His posture is relaxed, his face is calm. He is here to witness, not to guide. Alexandra stands when it is time. She feels the familiar pause rise in her chest. It is not fear, it is alignment. She lets the pause exist. The room waits. She begins by telling the truth. She says this work is unfinished. She says it may never be complete in the way people expect. She explains that it lives in questions, in silence, in space between words. Her voice is steady because she is not trying to convince. She is sharing. She shows parts of the process. Fragments, notes, moments that do not resolve neatly. The audience leans in. Some look confused, some look moved. No one interrupts. The rising tension comes from vulnerability. Showing something unfinished takes courage. Alexandra feels exposed but not unsafe. The space holds her. Then the twist arrives. Someone in the audience speaks, not to question, but to thank. They say they have never seen uncertainty treated with respect before. They say it makes them feel allowed to slow down in their own life. Another person speaks, then another. Stories emerge, not polished stories, real ones. Moments where silence was needed but not given. Moments where interruption changed something important. The room becomes a shared space of recognition. Alexandra listens. She does not respond to each story. She lets them exist. She feels the impact of her choice ripple outward. She realizes that protecting her process protected others too. The emotional peak settles gently. There is no applause, there is stillness, a kind that feels full. Afterward, people begin to leave quietly. Some stay to talk. Some sit alone for a moment. Keanu remains where he is, watching the room empty. He feels gratitude, not for attention, but for alignment. Alexandra approaches him. Her eyes are tired but bright. She asks him how it felt to watch. He smiles softly. He says it felt like watching someone trust themselves fully. They walk outside together. The air feels open. Alexandra tells him she used to think kindness meant helping people move faster. Now she thinks kindness sometimes means letting people move at their own pace. Keanu nods. He tells her restraint is not absence. It is presence without control. He says respect grows when silence is treated as meaningful. The woman from the hallway joins them. She looks lighter. She says she has decided to share her own unfinished idea soon, not to present it but to let it breathe. Alexandra thanks her. She says the courage was already there. The story comes to its final reflection here. This was never about one moment of silence. It was about choosing not to interrupt something becoming itself. It was about trusting that space can hold truth better than pressure. Keanu did not lead, he did not instruct, he did not correct, he respected the process. Alexandra continued freely, others followed. The lesson is simple but rare. When we stop interrupting growth, we allow it to happen. When we listen without trying to shape, we create safety. Kindness does not always speak. Sometimes it waits. This story leaves us with a quiet invitation to notice pauses, to protect unfinished thoughts, to trust that silence can be generous, and to remember that respect is not loud, it is patient.